My dear chosen one, have you ever felt the weight of someone's eyes on you without seeing a single soul around? A sense that someone, somewhere, is watching your every move, but doing everything to stay hidden? That feeling hasn't been random, because, yes, someone is watching you, not with love, not with hatred, but with a secret obsession that even she cannot explain. She watches you because something in her soul refuses to let go, even though the heavens already did. This isn't just about someone missing you. No, this is much deeper. She's not watching you because she wants to reconnect. She's watching because she was spiritually sentenced to witness what she once rejected. You were placed in her life as a divine turning point, and when she turned away, a spiritual order was set in motion. Now, she sees you rising, glowing, healing, and no one around her even knows what she's carrying inside. Her obsession must remain hidden, because if the truth ever came out, her entire mask would shatter. Chosen one, this message was sent to confirm what your spirit has been sensing. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will understand why God has allowed her to see you from a distance and never again up close. If this is already awakening something in your soul, write in the comments, "I feel the ones who watch me." Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you never miss a truth your soul needs to hear. She wasn't just anyone in your journey. There was a time when you offered her the most sacred thing you carry, your truth. You were open, real, spiritually aligned. You tried to show her a version of love that wasn't built on control, performance, or illusions. But instead of honoring that gift, she dismissed it. Maybe she laughed at your sensitivity. Maybe she said you were too deep, too intense, or too much. The truth is, she didn't reject you. She rejected the mirror you held up. And now, even though she moved on publicly, privately, she's haunted by the version of herself that walked away. You see, chosen one, when a person walks away from someone they don't understand, they usually forget and move on. But when they walk away from someone sent by God, their soul doesn't forget. Heaven doesn't allow it. It's not punishment, it's remembrance. And in her case, this remembrance turned into obsession. Because your presence carried a divine frequency she had never experienced before. Not because you were perfect, but because you were aligned. And once you came into her life, she could never unknow what you revealed. That's why she watches you now, in secret. She's searching for what she once felt, but no one else has ever given her. At first, she told herself you were a phase, just another connection, someone she grew out of. But time kept exposing the truth she tried to bury. Every relationship after you felt empty, every attempt to replace you was like chasing a ghost. She would smile, pretend, post pictures, even speak of new beginnings. But something inside her stayed stuck. Because your presence awakened her soul, but she didn't have the courage to walk that path. And so, like Lot's wife who looked back and turned to salt, she is frozen between what was and what could have been. And now her eyes follow your light from the shadows. Spiritually speaking, she wasn't just removed from your life, you were lifted out of her reach. There's a difference. You didn't walk away bitter or cold. You elevated in silence. And that silence, it crushed her. Because she expected you to beg, to chase, to prove your worth. But when you vanished without revenge, her illusion fell apart. That's when the sentence began. Because God does something profound with those who mistreat what He sends. He turns the tables, not through violence, but through visibility. Now, she must watch the very soul she dismissed become everything she once prayed for, but was too blind to recognize. This is where justice enters the spiritual realm. She's not obsessed just because she misses you. She's obsessed because she's been forced to see you. And there's a divine weight in watching someone become what you never believed they could. Her heart aches in silence, not just with longing, but with shame. Because deep down, she knows that if the people around her ever found out how she truly feels about you, they would question everything she's tried to build since. So she watches secretly, quietly, hoping no one notices, hoping you don't feel it, but your soul knows. Because when someone stares at you long enough, their energy reaches your spirit. Chosen one, you've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange heaviness, the random thoughts that aren't yours, the sudden spiritual fatigue. You've been sensing something trying to enter again, not through contact, but through memory. That's how spiritual obsession works. It doesn't always knock at your door. Sometimes it just lingers, unspoken, unseen, but present. She doesn't speak your name, but she speaks to your energy. She doesn't follow you openly, but she finds ways to stay updated. And all of this creates a tension in your field that you can't explain. But now you understand. Her obsession is a sentence disguised as silence. There's something biblical about this moment. Just as God prepared a table before David in the presence of his enemies, Psalm 23:5, so too are you being elevated in front of those who once mocked, doubted, or misused you. But here's the difference. Your enemy doesn't hate you. She loves you in the wrong way. She loves what she destroyed. And that kind of love is not redemptive. It's tormenting. She isn't watching you because she hopes you fail. She's watching you because each step you take forward reminds her that she never truly deserved to walk beside you. And that, chosen one, is the real weight of justice. You may not have seen her face in a long time. You may think she forgot, or that life moved her in another direction. But in the spirit, distance doesn't mean detachment. Her body moved on, yes, but her energy stayed behind, tied to you, bound by the echo of a choice she never fully accepted. She told herself you were replaceable, that what she lost wasn't sacred, but every time you rise, whether it's in your peace, your confidence, or your purpose, it pulls at something deep within her. She's no longer trying to love you. She's trying to figure out why she still feels you. And that question has become a torment she can't silence. In her private world, she's rewritten the past, told stories to herself and others that made her look like the hero, or at least the one who outgrew you. But the soul doesn't lie. And every night, when she lays in silence, that false narrative begins to collapse. Because she remembers your voice, your prayers, your presence, not in nostalgia, but in spiritual recognition. And that recognition has turned into a quiet desperation. She doesn't want you back. She wants herself back, the version of her that only came alive in your presence. But she gave that version up. And now, she mourns something she swore never mattered. You've likely felt moments of confusion lately, times when your energy felt disturbed without cause, or when your dreams felt infiltrated by faces from your past. That's not coincidence. When someone is spiritually tied to you and refuses to release you, their obsession creates ripples in your energetic field, especially when the connection was once divine. Even if broken, the memory of what could have been lingers like smoke after fire. That's why God has been calling you to go deeper into your solitude, to fortify your gates, because she may not be knocking physically, but in the spirit, she's circling your walls, looking for a way back in. And what you must understand, chosen one, is that not every apology comes with words. Sometimes, the universe arranges for someone to witness your healing in silence. That is the apology. That is the restoration. She doesn't speak it, but her eyes say it all. I didn't know what I had. I wasn't ready for that kind of love. I traded something real for something easy. Her pride won't let her say these words out loud. But her obsession? It speaks them daily. Every view, every search, every silent visit to your space. She's saying sorry. The only way she knows how now? From afar. Her dreams have changed. At first, they were filled with memories, soft, bittersweet images of who you used to be. But lately, those dreams have turned darker. She sees you walking through doors she can't enter, speaking to people she can't reach. She hears your name in rooms where she's no longer invited. This isn't punishment, it's prophecy. Because when someone rejects a divine connection, they don't just lose a person, they lose access. And now, in her sleep, her spirit is learning what her ego refused to admit. You were never just a chapter. You were a divine turning point, and she missed it. She may have tried to find you in others, to recreate the intensity, the honesty, the depth. But God has a way of guarding what He sanctified. He doesn't allow counterfeits to mimic His designs. And so every connection she attempts falls short, not because you're flawless, but because the alignment you carried came from above. That's the torment of walking away from something real. You can chase, pretend, distract, but nothing satisfies. And the more you grow, the clearer it becomes. It wasn't that you weren't enough, it's that she wasn't ready. And deep down, she knows. She may never be. What she fears most isn't you forgetting her. It's you never looking back. Because if you never look back, it confirms the one truth she's been avoiding, that the door is truly closed, final, sealed, and that God has moved you to a level where her hands can't reach. That's why she watches in silence. Because if she speaks, if she reaches out, she risks hearing the one thing she's not strong enough to face. I'm not coming back. So she settles for being your secret witness. She convinces herself that being unseen by you is better than being unseen by the world. But her soul, it knows the difference. You were never meant to know all of this while it was happening. That's why heaven kept it hidden. God didn't need you to carry the weight of being secretly worshipped by someone who once made you feel small. Instead, He allowed her to witness your rise without your awareness. Because sometimes, silence is the most divine response to injustice. While you healed, while you surrendered, while you grew, she watched. And in that watching, she began to realize, this isn't obsession, this is judgment. Her gaze isn't affection, it's accountability. This is the justice of God, not loud, not vengeful, but complete. He doesn't need to embarrass your enemies to vindicate you. He simply makes them a witness. And that's what she has become. A silent, unseen, tormented witness of what happens when you reject a divine appointment. She wasn't punished in the way the world understands punishment. No storms, no curses, no visible downfall. Just this, a front row seat to a life she was supposed to build with you, but forfeited. And now she watches your name echo where hers no longer fits. There's a story in Luke 16 where Jesus speaks of a rich man who lived in luxury and ignored a poor man named Lazarus. When both died, Lazarus was lifted into comfort, and the rich man found himself in torment. But the most painful part wasn't his suffering. It was being able to see Lazarus in glory, from a distance, but never reach him. That's what's happening now. She can see your peace, your growth, your glow, but there is a great chasm between you, one that cannot be crossed, because access, once revoked by divine order, is never restored by human will. She's tried to pray, to journal, to perform acts of healing that mimic spirituality, but nothing breaks the feeling that something sacred slipped through her hands. And that's because what she lost wasn't just a partner, it was a divine alignment. When God brings two souls together for a purpose, and one of them rejects it, the cost is not always immediate, but it comes quietly, precisely. Sometimes, it comes in the form of watching the other soul be used by God while you stand still. And that stillness, to her, is louder than any storm. What you've been sensing, those waves of unease, those flashes of memory, those quiet moments of heaviness, They aren't just nostalgia. They are traces of her energy trying to reconnect. Because she believes that if she can just think of you long enough, maybe you'll feel it, maybe you'll respond. But here's the truth. You don't owe her a reply. The connection was broken by her own hand. And now, her obsession is her cross to carry, not yours to answer. What she sees in you now is not what she left. It's what you became when God removed her. There's a dangerous temptation that comes with spiritual growth, believing that everyone who hurt you deserves a second chance once they realize your value. But the truth is, some doors are closed for eternity, for your protection and for their instruction. You were not sent here to be someone's awakening project. You were sent here to fulfill purpose. And if your presence alone wasn't enough for them to recognize your value the first time, your absence will be their teacher now. God is not cruel, but He is just. And justice sometimes means watch, but never touch again. She's been rehearsing her return in her mind, imagining the right words, the right timing, maybe even a spiritual excuse to reach out, but heaven won't allow it. Every attempt she makes to step back into your space feels blocked, unnatural, delayed. That's not you resisting. That's divine order protecting what was refined. Because the version of you she once knew no longer exists. You're no longer accessible at that level. You're not angry. You're not bitter. You're just beyond her reach now. And that's the part she can't accept. Not every consequence looks like suffering. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like God taking His hands off a situation and simply letting the truth unfold without interference. That's what she's living now, divine silence. Not because heaven has forgotten her, but because heaven is allowing her to witness what she tried to sabotage. And that, in itself, is a profound kind of mercy. She didn't lose you by accident. She lost you by decision. And now, in that decision, she watches the life she once had access to become unreachable. Not because you're hiding, but because you've ascended. You, on the other hand, have learned the power of letting go without needing closure. You've learned that some questions are better left unanswered, some people better left uninvited, and some memories better left as reminders, not of pain, but of transformation. Because what you went through with her didn't break you. It birthed you. It exposed the parts of you that still needed healing. But it also revealed the depth of your love, the truth of your soul, and the strength of your calling. And now, from the ashes of rejection, you walk in restoration. That's what she sees and can never touch again. There's something holy about the distance God creates after disobedience. He doesn't always destroy what rejected His voice. He simply withdraws His presence. And without that presence, even the most beautiful things begin to wither. That's what she's feeling. Her world may still look polished, but her spirit is dry. Her heart is restless. Because where you once poured light, there is now absence. And she's trying to fill that space with distractions. But the soul knows what it's missing. And no matter how much noise she surrounds herself with, the silence of your absence is deafening. You see, some connections are not meant to be repaired. They're meant to be remembered, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. You're not here to play God in someone else's redemption story. You're not responsible for her growth, her healing, or her realization. What you are responsible for is honoring what God has done in you, protecting the peace you've earned, guarding the elevation that cost you your tears, your prayers, and your obedience. Because to let her back in now would be to dishonor the process. And heaven doesn't bless what we invite in rebellion. There is a reason why the enemy often uses old connections to re-enter your life. He knows your heart is tender. He knows your compassion is strong. He hopes you'll mistake guilt for grace and let the door open just wide enough for history to repeat itself. But this time, you see clearly. You no longer interpret longing as love. You've learned the language of energy. You've learned to trust the fruit, not the memory. And the fruit of this situation is silence, secrecy, confusion. That's not divine. That's residue. And you are no longer living in residue. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when you must release the soul that refused to walk with you, even if they still follow you with their eyes. Because following you is not the same as being aligned with you. She's not chasing you in devotion. She's observing you in regret. And you cannot build anything sacred on top of someone's shame. God didn't elevate you to be her closure. He elevated you to be a sign, a visible message, a living letter that says, "This is what happens when you choose healing. This is what it looks like when you don't settle." And now, chosen one, your mission is not to respond, but to remain in peace, to remain in alignment, to remain faithful to the silence God gave you as protection. Because in that silence, heaven is still speaking, to her, to others, and most of all, to you. You don't need revenge. You don't need vindication. Your life has become both. Your very breath is a testimony. Your consistency is the clapback. Your peace is the proof. And whether she ever admits it or not, she knows. She didn't just lose a person. She lost a destiny. You are no longer the person who once waited for her to see you. That version of you, the one who overgave, who questioned your worth, who hoped to be chosen, is gone. Not bitterly, not violently, but intentionally. You let go, not because you stopped loving, but because you started listening to God, peace, to the silence that never lies. And now, that silence surrounds you like armor, not to isolate you, but to preserve what was born from the fire. You're not avoiding her. You're protecting what cost you everything to rebuild. This is what freedom feels like, knowing someone still watches, but no longer allowing that energy to hold weight. You don't need to confront her. You don't need closure from her, because you've already received closure from heaven. And that kind of closure doesn't come with explanations. It comes with clarity. The clarity that says, "I was never abandoned. I was delivered." The moment she left, you were handed back to yourself. And from there, God took over. He hid you. He refined you. And now He's revealing you to the world, to your purpose. And yes, even to those who once turned away. You're not obligated to carry guilt for how your story ended. You're not responsible for how her heart interprets your growth. Because true growth will always offend those who expect you to stay small. And you didn't stay small. You expanded spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And now, your life reflects that expansion. Your peace speaks louder than any post. Your glow, louder than any text. You became what only God could have made out of that pain. And though she can't say it out loud, she knows. The one she rejected is now the one heaven favors. Let that be enough. Let her silence be her answer. Let her obsession be her consequence. You don't need to dig through old wounds for fresh meaning. You've already extracted the wisdom. You've already passed the test. And now, your life is the reward. She sees it, she feels it, but she can't claim it. Because some things are only accessible through obedience. And obedience is what you chose. You honored what she mocked. You kept what she dropped. And now you carry a peace that can't be purchased or pretended. What you must do now, chosen one, is walk forward without glancing back. Don't look over your shoulder wondering if she'll return. If she does, she'll return to a gate she no longer has keys for. That's not punishment. That's progression. You didn't slam the door. You simply outgrew the room. And now, God is inviting you into places where your old connections can't follow. Not because they're bad, but because they're not aligned. The table was never meant to be shared with those who despise the recipe. The ones meant for your future will never need to sneak around in silence. They won't need to hide their admiration. They'll love you out loud, in truth, in timing, in spirit. They'll recognize you the first time, not after you've glowed up, not after the miracles, but at the root, when you're still in the middle of the process. That's how you'll know it's divine, because what comes from God doesn't need delay to validate itself, and it doesn't obsess in secret. It honors in the light. So bless her, forgive her, release her, not for her sake, but for yours, because peace doesn't require explanation, and healing doesn't ask for witnesses. You are free now, not just from her presence, but from the version of you who tolerated the confusion. You are free from waiting, from hoping, from checking your phone, from reading into signs. You are grounded, chosen, elevated, and nothing that watches you in secret has the power to block what God is doing in public. Walk in that knowing. You didn't come this far to be pulled back by energy that couldn't honor you the first time. You didn't survive the betrayal, the silence, the dark nights of the soul, just to be haunted by someone who couldn't choose your light when it mattered. No, chosen one, you're not here to reopen closed chapters. You're here to write new ones, with hands that no longer tremble, with a voice that no longer pleads, with a spirit that no longer doubts its worth. Let her watch. Let her remember. Let her mourn. But you must rise, because your rise is sacred. Your story is sacred. And even though she secretly watches, even though no one knows what she feels, heaven does. And heaven has already ruled. She cannot follow you where you're going. She was part of the preparation, not the promise. And while she wrestles with her own silence, you will keep walking in divine volume, echoing with grace, crowned with peace, and covered by favor. The eyes of regret may be on you, but the eyes of God have never left you. If this message resonated with your soul, write in the comments, "I release what watches me in silence." Let heaven see your declaration. Let the realm of spirit know you're no longer available for energetic surveillance. If you felt this truth in your bones, leave your like now, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you want to support our work and help us continue creating messages like this, I want to thank everyone who contributes through Buy Me a Coffee. Your support helps us go deeper and deliver with excellence. The link is in the pinned comment below. And now, dear one, take a breath. You are not being watched because you're weak. You are being watched because your light is proof of what obedience creates. Let them watch. Let them wonder. And while they do, keep moving forward. Until next time, keep rising, keep glowing, and never forget, heaven chose you in the silence, long before they started watching.